Hi, everybody. It's Marlene with Eerie News, and today is May 11th, 2022, Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. As you could tell, I already got the first article that we're going to be looking at, which is very interesting. It's out of the Daily Mail, and it's titled The Yellow Brick Road to Atlantis. Deep sea researchers spot incredible rock formation while exploring the Pacific Ocean floor near Hawaii. Deep sea researchers have spotted a rock formation that resembles a yellow brick road off the coast of Hawaii. It may look similar to the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz, or perhaps a hidden path to the mystical lost city of Atlantis. But deep sea researchers who spotted the incredible rock formation say it is actually an example of ancient active volcanic geology on the ocean floor near Hawaii. The strange-looking feature, which resembles a road paved in cobblestones, was located in the Uokalani Ridge. Oh my God, this Hawaiian name, I'm going to kill it, sorry. In the Papahānaumokuia Kia Marine National Monument, PMNM, in the Pacific Ocean. PMNM is one of the largest marine conservation areas in the world, bigger than all the national parks in the U.S. combined, and researchers have only explored about 3% of its seafloor. The crew of the exploration vessel Nautilus research ship caught sight of the formation and described it as a yellow brick road and the road to Atlantis in a video of the discovery. Oh, interesting. It's the road to Atlantis, a researcher on the radio can be heard saying. The yellow brick road, another adds, while a separate member team calls it bizarre and crazy. The team said, what may look like a yellow brick road to the mythical city of Atlantis is really an example of ancient active volcanic geology. Our Corps of Exploration have witnessed incredibly unique and fascinating geological formations while diving on the Lili Ukakalani Ridge. Oh my God, with PMNM. Nautilus spent most of April studying the geology and biological systems of seamounts, underwater mountains with volcanic origins. The team added in a statement, at the summit of Nuka Seamount, the team spotted a dried lakebed formation, now ID'd as a fractured flow of hyaloclastite rock, a volcanic rock formed in high-energy eruptions where many rock fragments settle to the seabed. The unique 90-degree fracture are likely related to heating and cooling stress from multiple eruptions at this baked margin. Throughout this seamount chain, the team also sampled basalts coated with ferromanganese, iron manganese crust from across different depths and ocean saturations, as well as an interesting looking pumice rock that almost resembled a sponge. Interesting. Does look like a yellow brick road. Wow. It's in the middle of nowhere. The exploration vessel is operated by the nonprofit Ocean Exploration Trust, which live streams what its remote-operated diving vehicles see in the deep. The bizarre rock formation was spotted during Ocean Exploration Trust expedition NA-138 to explore the PMNM in partnership with the NOAA Ocean Exploration and the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. Nautilus has recorded all sorts of unusual sea life, including Dumbo octopuses and piglet squids. The team said the primary objective of the latest expedition was to gather samples to determine the geologic origin and age of seamounts to gain a better understanding of the formation of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They added that the seamounts would also be surveyed for biodiversity in the hope of finding rich coral and sponge communities commonly found at these depths. Considering the presumed Cretaceous age of the Liliuokalani Ridge seamounts, it is expected that relatively thick ferromanganese crusts have formed on exposed rock surfaces, particularly on the flanks of the seamounts where sedimentation is minimized, they added. An EV Nautilus spokesperson said, our exploration of this never-before surveyed area is helping researchers take a deeper look at life on and within the rocky slopes of these deep ancient seamounts. These studies will help provide baseline information on the living communities of seamounts, which can inform management and conservation measures. All right. And you know what this reminded me of? I want to say back in like 1970, they discovered over here in the Bahamas off the coast of Bimini. Let me see if I can find it. Bimini Wall discovery. Some not exactly the same, but it's called the Bimini Road, and supposedly this area that the Edgar Casey, which was a he would do. I want to say he would go into trance, and he would do medical. He could give you, like, let's say, a medical prognosis, but he also had dreams, prophetic dreams. Supposedly, he said when they discovered this that this evidence of Atlantis would be found in this area where the Bimini Road is. And it's an underwater rock formation near Bimini, North Bimini Island in the Bahamas. The road consists of zero point 0.8 kilometers long northeast southwest linear composed of roughly rectangular. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I remember when this came out, they said the same thing, that that it's a naturally occurring geological feature. Okay, in other words, and from what I understand, there's a lot of people that say, "Boy, that's nature is not that. How can I say it? It doesn't is not so exact." Let me see if I can find a close up of it. And that's why, I mean, they're the experts that are saying that that wall is this yellow brick wall out in the Pacific is supposedly, made of volcanic activity. But for example, this right here, okay, for those of you watching the video, okay, where's that? So you could tell this is totally different. Look how huge these stones are, than what they found out there in the Pacific. All right. Maybe I'll follow up on this and we could find out what's going on, because I believe that the first time they came across what they call the Bimini Wall or Bimini Road was in 1969, 1970. So, of course, we got to take their word for it that it's this is a product of nature. But let's see what happens. Okay, this is out of the Epoch Times, and it's titled "House Panel to Hold First Public Hearing on UFOs in Decades." And I want to why now? What's going on? Why are they doing this now? Anyway, I mean, better late than never, but still. The House Intelligence Committee Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and Counterproliferation is set to hold a public hearing next week on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, also known as UFOs, marking the first time such a hearing has taken place in over 50 years. The hearing, which will assess what risk UFOs pose to national security, will be chaired by Representative Andre Carson out of Indiana. Congress hasn't held a public hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs, in over 50 years, Carson wrote on Twitter on Tuesday, alongside black and white photos of what appeared to be mysterious flying objects. That will change next week when I lead a hearing in House Intelligence on this topic and the national security risk it poses. Americans need to know more about these unexplained occurrences. The hearing will take place on May 17th at 10 a.m. and can be watched online. Witnesses will include Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security Ronald S. Moultrie and Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence Scott W. Bray. After the public hearing, a closed classified hearing will follow that will focus on the Pentagon's Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, which was established in November 2021 and replaced the U.S. Navy's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. That group's role is to detect, identify, and attribute objects of interest in special use airspace and to assess and mitigate any associated threats to safety of flight and national security, according to the Department of Defense. In a statement, Carson said that Americans expect and deserve their leaders in government and intelligence to seriously evaluate and respond to any potential national security risks, especially those we do not fully understand. He added that since joining Congress, he has been focused on the issue of unidentified aerial phenomenon as both a national security threat and an interest of great importance to the American public. The upcoming hearing follows a 9-page public report issued in June 2021 by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in conjunction with a U.S. Navy-led UAP task force that outlined 144 reports of UFOs. Those reports date back to 2004 and state that 11 of the 144 observations caused near misses for military pilots. The 11 documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP or UFO were cited as examples of current ongoing airspace concerns. UFOs pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger if some instances represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by a potential adversary, the report reads. However, the report notes that with the exception of one instance where officials were able to determine that the UFO was airborne clutter, in that case a deflating balloon, defense and intelligence analysts were able to contribute incidents to specific explanations. UFOs clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. The report states while noting that the phenomena probably lack a single explanation. During a press briefing on Tuesday, Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said that the Defense Department is committed to being as transparent as we can with the American people and with members of Congress about our perspectives on UFOs, and we'll try to make sure that we have a better process for identifying these phenomena, analyzing that information in a more proactive, coordinated way than it's been done in the past. He said the Pentagon will also attempt to mitigate any safety issues that arise since many of these phenomena have been cited in training areas and training environments. While many will no doubt be eagerly awaiting Tuesday's hearing, Representative Rick Crawford out of Arkansas questioned the move in light of current events taking place across the globe. With China and Russia developing hypersonic weapons and the Biden administration leaking alleged U.S. military operations in Ukraine, we have far more serious intelligence threats than flying saucers, Crawford said, according to CNN. And in a way, I kind of agree. I don't know. Call me suspicious, and I think a lot of Americans now are suspicious about any three-letter agency in the government. But it's like, why now? People have been reporting on what they call aerial phenomena, UFOs, for what? 60 years, 70 years? And it's not only the military. I mean, military were having sightings. Pilots were having sightings. I mean, if you want to call even besides the regular, us commoners, that supposedly are not trained observers, not us, but there's plenty of people out there, police, other people that are trained observers for years and years and years. I've tried to say stuff and some wisely said, nah, I'll keep that to myself, or it's a career killer. Why now? Why now? And this thing about, transparency, I agree, but we should have had transparency all along. So what's changed? Why transparency now when for years it's been everything but, it's been everything but that. I'm very suspicious of that. I hate to say it. I can't help it. And I also agree with that it's like we've got a lot of stuff going on that as far as intelligence, yeah, needs a lot of, what do they call it? Undivided attention. Anyway, this is also out of Epoch Times, and it's titled, "In Near-Death Experiences Blind People See for First Time." People who were blind from birth have had brushes with death in which they felt themselves leave their bodies and experience vision for the first time. For some, it seemed natural. For others, it was a confusing and shocking experience. Many people experience the sensation of leaving the body during a near-death experience, NDE. A 1982 Gallup poll found that 50% of all Americans who had almost died under widely varying circumstances reported NDEs. About 9% reported the classic out-of-body experience. 11% said they entered another realm, and 8% said they encountered spiritual beings. For blind NDEers, the visual perceptions add another level of mystery. Some people say NDEs are hallucinations, though many who study NDEs refute this explanation. Hypoxia or oxygen deprivation is one often cited cause. Another is rapid eye movement intrusion when the REM associated with dreaming during sleep happens while one is awake. One of the researchers who disagrees with these explanations is Robert Mays, who has studied NDEs for about 30 years. He explained during a talk at the 2014 International Association for Near-Death Studies conference that NDEs are very different from the experiences usually reported under the condition of hypoxia and REM intrusion. May said that NDEers almost always report that they had a hyperreal experience that far outshines our ordinary conscious experience, that they felt the NDE realm was their true home, permeated by unconditional love, and that they are no longer afraid to die. These characteristic aspects are simply not present with hypoxia, REM intrusion, and so on, May said. Studies have shown that when blind people dream, they don't see. Yet, in NDE, studies suggest blind people often see. For example, one study on how blind people dream was led by Amani Meadi at the University of Copenhagen and published in the journal Sleep Medicine in 2014. They found that none of the participants who were blind from birth reported visual impressions in their dreams. For participants who could see earlier in their lives, the more time that had passed since they had lost their sight, the less likely they were to report visual impressions in dreams. A study of blind NDEers led by Kenneth Ring at the University of Connecticut in the 1990s found that 15 out of 21 blind participants reported some kind of sight. 3 were not sure if they had visual perception, and the remaining 3 did not see anything. Half of those who were blind from birth said they saw something. The uncertainty of some may have to do with the unfamiliar nature of vision for those who have not experienced it, combined with other unusual qualities of NDEs. Even NDEers who are not blind sometimes have trouble explaining the experience, which seems to transcend ordinary life in many ways. One man, blind from birth, told Ring that he found himself in a library with thousands and millions and billions of books as far as you could see. As if he saw them visually, he said, "Oh yes." Did he see them clearly? No problem. Was he surprised at being able to see thus? Not in the least. I said, "Hey, you can't see." And then I said, "Well, of course I can see. Look at those books. That's ample proof that I can see." Vicky Umepeg, whom Ring interviewed and who had spoken of her experience in various media interviews, had an overall pleasant NDE, but did not describe being suddenly able to see as frightening. She was 22 years old, working as a singer at a nightclub in Seattle. She couldn't get a cab after work one night, so she accepted a ride from some intoxicated patrons. The car crashed while she was in it. She suffered serious injuries, including a fractured skull. She felt that she had left her body and floated up towards the ceiling in Harborview Hospital. She heard a doctor talking about the possibility that damage to her eardrum could make her deaf as well. She could see a doctor leaning over her, what she realized must be her body below. She had never seen her own body. Pulled through a tunnel, she emerged in a place with grass and people of light. She said, in an interview for the BBC documentary The Day I Died, Umepeg said, "I felt overwhelmed by that experience because I couldn't really imagine what light was like." Umepeg was born prematurely and became blind as a result of too much oxygen in the incubator. She said that during her NDE, it was wonderful to be out there and be free, to not worry about bumping into anything. If she wanted to know something, the knowledge would come to her. When she returned to her body, she said it was excruciatingly painful and very heavy. Ring noted that Umepeg often used vision-oriented words, even outside of her NDE description. For example, she would talk about watching television or use phrases like, "look at this," which she wouldn't mean literally, Ring wrote. Although this observation does not necessarily invalidate the testimony in our reports, it does send up another amber flag of caution when it comes to the interpretation of the narratives of our blind respondents. The language of vision may have been used by blind study participants to describe some sense that is hard to put into words, he concluded. He cited the response of one participant who was uncertain whether he had vision and his NDE. I think what it was that was happening here was a bunch of synthesia, where all these perceptions were being blended into some image in my mind, the visual, the tactile, all the input that I had. I can't literally say I really saw anything, but yet I was aware of what was going on and perceiving all that in my mind, but I don't remember detail. That's why I say I'm loath to describe it as a visual. Ring concluded, in answer to our earlier questions as to what these individuals experience, if not seeing, we submit that it is transcendental awareness, a distinctive state of consciousness and mode of knowing in its own right, which is operative in blind and sighted persons alike during their experiences and which now stands in need of explanation. Something to think about. Okay, this one's out of Fox 5 New York, titled "Man Died from Heart Attack While Burying Woman He Strangled." South Carolina deputies say. Oh boy. Talk about instant karma. Here we go. Trenton, South Carolina. A 60-year-old man who strangled his girlfriend died of a heart attack while burying her body in their South Carolina backyard, investigators said. Deputies found Joseph Anthony McKinnon's body Saturday after neighbors called and reported an unconscious man in a yard in Trenton, the Edgefield County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. As they investigated McKinnon's death, deputies found a body wrapped in trash bags in a freshly dug hole and determined it was his girlfriend Patricia Ruth Dent, 65, investigators said. An autopsy on Dent determined she had been strangled, and neighbors told officers they saw McKinnon digging a hole in his yard the day before, deputies said. An autopsy on McKinnon determined he died of a heart attack. Deputies said it appeared he was nearly done filling the grave when he set the shovel down, walked away, and collapsed. There you go. There you go. Okay, this one is out of New York Post, titled, Is Gracie Mansion Haunted? Mayor Adams says there's ghosts in there. Club-going Mayor Eric Adams is a man who likes to boogie. Now he also apparently believes in the boogeyman. Adams turned his attention from the Bronx Bombers to the Manhattan Boers as he broke news in the Yankee press box Tuesday's game, Gracie Mansion is haunted. I don't care what anyone says, there are ghosts in there. Man, His Honor told Yankees announcers Michael Kay and Cameron Maben, who invited him into the booth after the mayor tossed out the first pitch. Adams laughed while confirming he sees stuff moving around and hears footsteps in the stately 223-year-old country house that became the official mayor's residence in 1942. Listen, they're creeping around, he said. If the mansion is haunted, that would be news to historians, ghost hunters, and former employees who told Post they aren't familiar with stories of spirits, hauntings, or undead people lurking around the people's house. Absolutely not. I never heard of such idiocy, said Anna Maria Santorelli, who worked as a chef and event manager at the mansion under mayors David Dinkins, Rudy Giuliani, and Michael Bloomberg. Santorelli, who sometimes pulled 19-hour shifts feeding the mayor and guests, told the Post she never heard one story of a bump in the night during her many years there. Adams is not the first inhabitant of the house to mention ghosts, though. Former First Lady Shirlane McCrae said during a Halloween interview in 2017 that she'd witnessed some unusual activity, saying there are times when doors open and close by themselves and the floorboards creak as though someone is walking through the rooms. At least one person is known to have died at Gracie Mansion. Elizabeth Wolcott Gracie, daughter-in-law of the merchant who constructed the house, who died from apoplexy in 1819. But one death at an address is actually quite low for New York City many-layered history, historians say. Anytime there's a well-known location in a city, especially one that was built before 1800, there's naturally going to be speculation. Oh, it's totally got to be haunted, right? Professor Mortimer, real name Robert Conyo, co-founder of the Haunted Manhattan Tour Company, told the newspaper. He consulted one of his history books and found only a brief mention of Gracie Mansion, but no specifics. The building, one of the oldest wooden structures in Manhattan, has a general aura of spookiness to at least some visitors. The place did not straight up give me the creeps, Andrew Fine, vice president of the East 86th Street Association, an area that abuts the mansion. It was just really old and dated. I could see how somebody staying in that house would feel that way. He only toured the building once, but said that if he were mayor, he would be burning a ton of stage before I moved into that joint. Lance Zal, founder of the NYC Ghost Tours, confirmed that the mayor's house is not on any list of known haunted places in the city. For a real chance of seeing ghosts include that of Mark Twain, he recommended His Honor visit the famous House of Death in the West Village. Adams has been accused of being a ghost in his own city before the election, after reports suggest that he actually lives in New Jersey instead of his sparsely decorated Brooklyn address. There's an allure where a lot of people see there's an old house and they can connect that a lot of people work there, Zal said. Hauntings in a way help connect people to the past and help make history more relatable in a way that's entertaining. While Adams is often preoccupied with things that aren't real, his obsession with mythical people barbecuing on the subways for one, ghost hunters are willing to investigate his claim. We've never lived there, and we've never gone ghost hunting there, so we can't tell, Mortimer said. If Eric Adams would like to submit a statement and help us start an uptown tour, we would gladly sit down for an interview. But you never know. What if it's not the house? What if it's Mayor Adams who's haunted? That happens. You know, it's not the place, it's the person. Okay, next one. This is out of Vice, and this is titled Diver's Body Washes Up in Port Next to $20 million of Cocaine. The unidentified man who was found unconscious by Australian officials at the world's biggest coal port was wearing specialized equipment. Wow. The body of a diver was found alongside more than 50 kilograms of packaged cocaine worth an estimated $20 million at the world's largest coal port on Monday. Police were called to Kooragang Island in the Australian city of Newcastle at about 9:30 a.m. after receiving reports of an unconscious diver on the banks of the Hunter River. The man, who is yet to be formally identified, died at the scene despite the efforts of paramedics. Multiple parcels containing cocaine were discovered in the surrounding area, packaged up in a way that appeared to be brought from overseas, according to Organized Crime Squad Commander Detective Superintendent Rob Critchlow. We're not 100% certain in saying this person was involved, but it certainly is something we're looking at, said Critchlow. He noted the man, who was first seen floating in the water by port officials, was wearing scuba diving gear along with some pretty specialized equipment. This reportedly included a rebreather, an apparatus that allows people to stay underwater for extended periods without giving off bubbles. Police divers will continue to search of the area today, assisted by officers from the Australian Border Force. Meanwhile, New South Wales police are requesting locals or anyone with information to come forward in relation to reports of suspicious activity in the area on Sunday night. Newcastle's coal export terminal sees more than 2,000 ships come and go each year, many of them shipping coal overseas at all hours of the day and night. A small inflatable boat and a 5-meter runabout were spotted near a ship named Eerie GR, which arrived in the port of Newcastle on Sunday after departing Argentina just over a month ago, according to the police. The ship is registered to the Marshall Islands. This was a well-drilled professional group, quite comfortable doing what they were doing, comfortable sending drugs on a ship across the world to target that community here in Australia, Critchlow told the media. They knew what they were doing. Over the past decade, one of the world's most lucrative drug corridors has developed between Latin America, the biggest cocaine producers and exporters in the world, and Australia, the world's highest paying consumers. This drug highway cuts straight through the heart of the Pacific Islands region, and in recent years has spilled over into domestic markets both for illicit drug consumption and production. Wow. I wonder what happened to him. I wonder if he just, you know, like the Benz, decided to stay under too long, got too greedy. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, guys, I hope you like this little look at all this unusual news from around the world. I'm following up on the Lake Mead thing out in Vegas about that drying lake with all the mob hits coming to the surface. I'm following that one, so when I get more news on it, I will bring it to you guys. So until then, take care, and I will be seeing you guys